Hello and welcome to our weekly Energy Shot podcast. This is the second last of this year, and we are Matt Taylor, and my name is Nicole. We have decided to produce this podcast series in order for you to have a weekly astrological update from Matt, some energy shots, some guidance, some wisdom, practical coaching tools for your day-to-day life in order to link to the higher realms and, to maneuver yourself better through your life. Hi, Matt. How are you this week?
I'm very well. How are you today?
I'm good.
The year has gone fast. This is more or less we
Isn't
started
it?
at the beginning of the year. Very fast.
I was so surprised when I thought, I think it was yesterday. I was like, oh my God, we're doing this already for a year. I mean, how consistent are we? No?
We're very good. We get a tick for that.
Good employees.
Yes. We get an A+ for consistency.
I think so too.
Hopefully accuracy, I would think.
Hopefully.
So,
well.
Hopefully. I mean, we haven't been too off, have we?
No.
All right, I think.
I mean, I didn't do a lot. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's really, oh yeah. Amazing. So what's going on this week?
No, you were great. All right. So first of all, what we want to speak to is at the beginning of the astrological week, we have a certain time and certain point we look at in astrology and we tune into that because it sets the tone for the week. And the week starts with mostly positive energy. So I'm going to speak to the two negative ones because if we can know what they are, the rest is not too bad actually this week. But let's focus in on what is the 2 or 3 challenges, right? And then that way we know what the thing is that we're dealing with. So first of all, Sun square Neptune. Sun is like how I shine, how I heal, who I am, what am I emitting out into the universe, what sort of radiance do I have, my personality, obviously, things like this, but certainly how I shine, right? And how I lead could be another way. Neptune are things like my spirituality, my dreams, aspirations, where I feel my higher self, and all of those kind of otherworldly things. Here they're coming together in a square. Now, a square means that wherever the Sun is, wherever the Neptune is, that they were at 90 degrees from each other. So, and when something is 90 degrees angles in the chart, it creates like a tension. It's really something where we need to take action. It means that the energy is not, it's a bit it's a bit stuck. But obviously Western astrology, they succumb to that and say there's nothing you can do. That is not what we do in Kabbalistic or karmic astrology. We say we need to take action. We need to push. We need to go beyond our comfort zone. We need to put in the extra mile when these squares are that, because we're never victim to anything in the cosmos. So here we have an action, or taking an action about who I truly am, both as how I radiate in the world, but also who I truly am in my higher essence. I need to dig deeper to feel that this week. I need to take more actions. I need to go to go to a level inside me where I dig deeper within in order to really feel like I am living in my truth. Or not, there is no absolute truth, but living in a truth, at least where I'm up to in my truth. And so it can connect to a truthful power or a truthful radiance or a truthful way that I want to shine, or a truthful leadership, right? Otherwise, what is the opposite? So the negativity of this is that Neptune makes things very foggy, right? Because it's the spiritual thing, it makes things very cloudy, like I can't see properly, right? It makes things very nebulous, endless, there's no borders. And so what we end up doing is kind of diminishing or not looking like we're here, or becoming not very vivid in the world. So, we really need to come in at a point where we take this week as something where I'm really pushing to connect to my true power. And that way we, can come in and with some vivacity, with some life force. You have to remember that Sun is that vitality, that life force as well. So we just need to push a little harder to get to that. And not only to connect to that life force, but really to connect to who I truly am, that Neptune dream, aspiration, spiritual self. It's a month, it's a week. If I was to sum up what the challenge is, it's possible confusion, right? And next week, as we go into that, and I'm going to speak to it more, we'll go down that track even more so. But I'm going to speak to it more next week. But this is, if we don't get like direction, this is what we need. We really need this direction sense. Then we're just going to be sort of floaty or left behind or not noticed. So this is one of the first points to make.
Very interesting. For me, the most interesting part about that is that it is a square, and I'm seeing in the notes that there's another square you will be talking about, and that those squares are 90 degrees. Because what I got in very clearly yesterday, we had the 12-12-21. And the 12-12-21 in numerology, when you would look at it from a numerologic way, it's the 3, 3, and 3, which is in total a 9. And in tantric numerology, that's what we're using in Kundalini Yoga. The 9 is the completion of a cycle. And what's really interesting, I feel, is that we're having a portal open that is going from yesterday, Sunday, 12-12-21, to until winter solstice, 21-12-21, which is also a 9. And this is a portal that opened up to finish certain kind of things, to finish cycles, to finish karmic cycles, which means like things that you were carrying around over incarnations, and incarnations like several different lifetimes. There are like some teachings, we as a soul are looking for some teachings for 300 lifetimes. This is very, very common. So since Sunday yesterday, 12-12-21, until the winter solstice, 21-12-21, we're having this window open, and it's a 9-day window of complete completion. And if you are willing and if you're open to do so, it really opens a lot of possibility to go into complete new vibrational ways. Because what's happening when you're closing a karmic cycle is that you're leaving a very old vibrational tone. Let's say you were a symphony, a very beautiful symphony in general. And the karmic cycle would be that one violinist which is constantly playing a wrong tone. It's just off a little bit, not drastically, but it's off. And what you're doing when you're closing those cycles is you're like going to this violinist and you're telling him to, what's the name when they do the ding, 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 ding. So the violinist, they tune the violin. So it's sounding correctly. And this is what you actually do in those 9 days. What we're doing in meditation, or when you're doing yoga, or like even when you're just like journaling, and you're just like thinking about your life. I mean, that's, for some people that's enough, right? For others, we have other techniques that we use. But what I would highly suggest for you to think of is, where is my personal symphony a little bit off? What are the areas? For example, you're having financial issues like all the time. Like you're making money and it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're always having financial issues. That would be, the violin is kind of off a little bit. Or I'm having relationship issues, not in friendships, but in love, for example. Where is the sound off? Where is my sound off? And what you can do is you really can, like, of course, you do shadow work, you work with a coach and you go deep within. This would be probably the most amazing thing. You do healing like Matt does, or I do, or whoever. and you get into those areas which are off, which are sometimes it's also not like being off in sense of that you're not able to. Sometimes it's also kind of a feeling of numbness in a certain part. You know, you want to change things, but you're numb to the solution. You're like blocked. You're like, that's also a possibility. So that this violin player, they cannot play because the thing is broken that they play on the violin. It's also, you know, that would be more like a block. It would be more like, or their arm is broken. You know, it depends where the thing is going on. Maybe the violin is not playing at all and it's missing in your symphony, or the violin is playing wrong and you need to tune it, or you know, or the bow is broken and you need to fix the bow. So like it depends on what it is what's going on. But what I feel to say is use those 9 days if you are on this journey of the higher consciousness, of the transforming yourself into something different. And it's really beautiful how the sun square Neptune, the sun as the person and Neptune as the spirituality, plays out in what I was seeing.
Yes, that's correct. And the challenge is that it's not obvious to us. This square doesn't make it very obvious. So really, you know, when we, you know, it's kind of also just in the general time of the year, we're like, well, what are my plans for next year? Or what am I thinking about next year? You know, if we look at it like on a practical level as well as what you said, it makes it very difficult. So you really like to get clarity can be also, you know, if you're making plans for your business or you're thinking about your intentions, you know, it's generally time we start to do that, isn't it? Even, I mean, besides what you're talking about, besides the actual shortest day of the year, the 1st of January isn't an energy. It's not a thing, right? It's just a calendar date, right? But coming to the shortest day of the year is very cyclical. It is when we close down. So when we get to that point, we're having more darkness than light. And so we're really coming into an end of moving towards more light than darkness. So we really want to like set the intentions over these periods about what light I want to reveal in the world, right? So you have to sit and think, right? Even if you don't really do that, the cycles take you in there, because in winter we start to go inwards and we're moving more like into our head, into ourselves, into our homes. We're going energetically inwards. So this is the time to get clarity, because Neptune doesn't give you clarity, especially when it's square. It makes things very, as I said, nebulous. So lots of clarity, whether they're external things, what I'm talking to, or internal things that Nicole is talking to, is really important. And going on from that, again, with the internal things like Nicole is speaking to, the moon is square Mercury, and the moon is really our subconscious or our soul or our deeper essence. But it's also our reactive system, right? Because every planet has a positive and a challenge. The moon is also the way we react to the world robotically without even knowing, right? And so here with the sun square, moon square, we're really in more of a reactive mode because of this square. These squares make it more challenging. The moon is square Mercury, and Mercury is the planet of my thoughts, my words, my interactions, you know, the information that I want to spread. So here it's like, what are my deeper subconscious thoughts? But also, what are my reactive thoughts? So here we need to be able to define ourselves between what are my true thoughts and the true ways I feel about things and the true essence of me. And that's not easy, because the squares bring up more of a reactive system, more of a like, oh, these are my, and particularly because it's Mercury, my thoughts, Neptune, my higher vibration, sun, my personality, moon, my true essence. It's really like making me very reactive, right? Truly like not being able to see things clearly, deal with things clearly, think clearly, what is this about? So there's a lack of clarity, really a lack of clarity this week. Gemini is rising, which means that I have multiple thoughts on things. It doesn't give me one absolute. In fact, the chart for the past 18 months has been taking us away from absolute. There's no absolute in anything. That's what South Node Sagittarius is about. It's uprooting absolutes, black and whites, religiosities, dogmatic thinking, this way or that way. Gemini rising also increases this opportunity to look at things multidimensionally or multi-viewed or multi-perspective. So it's almost like we're disappearing in order to kind of get so many different things. So we have no clarity. We have to really push that forward a little bit more, but it may not be the ways you go forward as you have previously. It may be these squares with these, Gemini risings, with these Mercuries, that it's a whole rethink around how I need to go truly forward. If you take it into account with the click over of energy of cycles with the shortest day of the year, also we'll have a full moon around the same time. This is really like a click over after the two eclipses about my full moon and my free will and my responsibility. The eclipses that we've just had, it's really a shift in the way that we want to take our lives forward, right? So if you don't tune into that, you're skipping a beat, you're missing a trick.
And it's really fascinating. The moon square Mercury speaks also a lot to the winter solstice, because in Kundalini Yoga, the yogic science says that the winter solstice is the solstice of the subconscious, of the changing the blood of because the subconscious mind is the darkness and the conscious mind is the sun. So when you're having way more darkness than sun, that means your subconscious needs to be cleansed and cleared. And there are many sciences and mystic sciences that are offering such meditations and such rituals for those days. I mean, you can go from Wicca, witchcraft, over any type of yoga, over pretty much any type of astrology, where the winter solstice is very important as well, over all mystics are really open to say you should probably be doing something on that day. And it's a good day to do something more than you would usually do. And what we do and what I personally offer is on the 21st, I offer a Kundalini yoga class of 1.5 hours to really clear the subconscious and to really prepare. The subconscious vibration is also a vibration that you're holding in your physical body. And with the yogic science, what we do is we are maneuvering our body around on our sheepskins, so those subconscious blocks which are held in the physical body can be transported and transmuted into a higher conscious energy. So
so on the Sunday, which is the full moon, I'm going to the Sunday the 19th of December, I'm going to also be doing a full moon about unlocking prosperity and unlocking joy, because that's the energy we'll need for next year, because there's so much confusion in the financial systems and in the value systems and in the institutional systems that this is a kind of year where we need to be fine-tuning on that. So lots of tools that you can take advantage of there. So here, just moving forward now, because I think we've really spoken to a lot of the confusion, a lot of the clarity that we need to make effort around that. We're moving with Mars. So Mars is finalizing in Scorpio this week, which means that it's on 29 degrees, which means it's the judgment angle, we call it Kabbalistically, which doesn't mean the world is going to end. It just means it gets heavier, a heavier karmic push, no? Because when a planet is wrapping up it makes sense. Yes, it makes sense. It's like, I'm wrapping up in this sign, so let's do all the bits we missed, right? As let's pull it together. So we get this big kind of energetic punch, if you like, to really make sure punchier energy, not a punch physical, but punchier energy to make us go, oh, we need to wrap up on all these things, whatever Mars in Scorpio is. So Mars in Scorpio, really Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. So it's in its home sign here. So, you know, they go very well together. And Scorpio is always about extremes, darkness and light. That is principally what Scorpio is about. Reincarnation, reinvention of yourself, transformation, going through the darkness to get to the light. It's all going in deep to your psyche to pull out new consciousness. It's all of that going in, going up, and, you know, all of that energy. And Mars is the Lord of battles, right? We know Kabbalistically that there's no battle outside of us, right? Despite how the world looks at the moment, it's an illusionary battle. Whenever you go to a battle outside of you, you're really actually fighting with yourself, right? So the battle is always within, right? Interestingly, the Kabbalist of our times, where we go to meditate, he called the war room. It's completely different to what anybody else would, any other spirituality would call their center room of meditation, right? But he called it a war room because we go to real battle against our ego, our limitations, our, you know, like this. And it's such a phenomenal power of calling it that, right? Because that's where we're at with like Mars finalizing in Scorpio. This is a must deal, right? 29 degrees, must deal. There's no way out, right? What are we dealing with? The battle of my traumas, the psyche blocks, the emotional extremes, the things that have never been, let me change that, things that are now ready to be resolved, things that you must deal with at your next level. Of course, there's always another level, but this is, you need to deal with the ones of this level, right? So it's kind of like we're vaporizing or disappearing on the physical level, you know, with this Mars and Moon squaring, you know, and what we will feel more is the deeper punch of this blockage that you're speaking to, Nicole, because we will know when we go into that cycle of the full moon coming up, and we go into the shortest day of the year, that we will obviously feel what it is, because the full moon's on the 19th, and I think the shortest day of the year is about the 21st, 22nd.
Yes.
So they're coming in very closely together. In fact, they'll probably mesh. They'll probably meld. Yeah. Yes, they'll probably mesh and meld. So you're really in that full moon. You're going into your psyche block. As it's the full moon in Capricorn, of Capricorn in Cancer, Kabbalistically, you'll see something else, Western astrology, but it's a healing moon because it involves Cancer, which is what the moon rules. So it opens the subconscious. It's a double whammy. You get a full moon of or triple whammy. You get a full moon. You get a full moon in Cancer with the shortest day of the year.
Amazing.
So the whole thing this week is setting you up for that whole psyche block. When Mars, there's also a very significant fixed star on the 29 degrees of Scorpio, which is called Ptoleman. And Ptoleman means that I must deal with the learning or painful experiences. And fixed stars only operate when there's a planet or a major asteroid on the same degree as the fixed star, right? So it opens the portal. So here we're going to be faced with the battle within, which is finally what I've been talking about. Right? Stop looking at these battles outside of you to get confusion and anger, because all confusion and anger does is bring in the angel of space and make things separated, right? It separates you out. It doesn't do anything else. It's all it does. Yeah, not saying don't protest, but at least if you're going to protest or you're going to get frustrated, if you want to say something, do it from a place of peace or joy or calm, because that frequency is much higher than anger and frustration, right? So here, all of that real anger that you're really sitting in is really coming up for a big, hey, look at me moment. And if you can just take the time to do some tuning in and get like where you're really at with clarity, then you'll be able to really shift something for the year that will really give you your true intentions, give you your true directions. Because after Mars, like finalizing in Scorpio, I'll speak to it more next week, Mars goes into Sagittarius, which is powerful adventures, big journeys, getting excited with my free will and excited on the things that I can do. But if the blockage is still there, we're just like, you know, running into those walls and barriers that we can't get over. So really take advantage of the next couple of weeks to really dig in and clear and heal and face those things that we need to deal with. It's a great moment for that.
Yeah. And it's like, I know it sounds very heavy. And we could think, oh my God, it's so heavy. And what am I going to do with all of that? But let's keep in mind that all the other planets are doing fine. They're great, as Matt said. And let's also keep in mind that it's actually, in wintertime is the time of the year where it's about introspective. It's about going within. It's also like, at least in the northern hemisphere, it's more being in the house than outside because it's cold outside. It's more being with family or with friends, that like your soul family, your vibrational family, than being alone or somewhere. It's like, it's really going within, being with loved ones. And that also, I mean, I don't have to tell you, most people, like Sadhguru said, when you're thinking you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family, and then you know where you're standing.
I say something similar. Think of, if you don't know what you're working on, think of your mother and father or your family, and let's see what that brings up. Yes, they're great examples. Yeah, because they're designed to trigger us. They don't mean that in a nasty way, but we're choosing them as our closest soul's partners in this journey to remind us of where we're reactive and blocked. It's it's a classic. It's a great one.
It's classic.
Yeah.
And so, because a lot of us are going to our families, let's remind ourselves that they are for you, not against you. Like, life in general happens for you, not to you. And because everything happens for you, you don't have to be triggered all the time. But instead of being triggered, if being very reactive, maybe have like a step back, and you're like, okay, what does this have to do with me? Because let's keep in mind, you are like your sound, your unique soul's sound on this planet as a human. Every human is vibrating on a very different kind of scale. No one is like the other person. It's like with the fingerprints. So your unique sound, maybe you had like this violin which was off all the time, or you had the drummer which had a stick missing and you had no power in your song, or you had this flutist which is like way too loud for the whole rest of the symphony. So let's keep in mind that when we are with our loved ones, with our families, with our trigger number ones, what they're doing is they're showing us where we can look at, where we can have a clear way of where to work next, and just think of, okay, where is my symphony off, and go and work on your vibration. Like, it's beautiful. And
that's right. I mean, like Cole said to me this week, the only way out is through. No, so it's like, oh, the only way out is through. It's a great expression. Like, and she was great to remind me of that, because really, if you're going to want to go to your next level next year, and you're going to be surrounded by more confusion, you really need to dig deep into your direction, right? So, but we know that there's going to be blockages or challenges along the way that you have to go through, because that's the only way out. So this energy over the next week is really helping you see all of that and get clear on it if you can. And I spent an hour with Nicole on Saturday, and it was like, well, that was great. Maybe that was it for what I needed to do. It's an hour. We're really talking about it's just getting or doing some work for an hour, or joining something for a couple of hours, and just to get that extra push to really see where you can break through. Finally, really important. This is the important part. Right. Da, 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 da. So we don't want any off violins at this point. Everybody tuned into what we're saying. Right, so we have this North Node, South Node. This is the karmic destiny changer. In your natal chart, it's personal to you, but it's also in the world. So what is the world going through? Is this North Node, South Node? It stays in a sign for 1.5 years, and it goes backwards. So it's really strange, right? So where you would normally go Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, round the astrological signs and finish up with Aquarius and Pisces, it goes backwards. So it doesn't go from Gemini to Cancer like everything else. It goes from Gemini to Taurus. It spins backwards. Yes, it's continually in retrograde, which means it's our karmic destiny changer. It's like, here's what you're reviewing, and it's non-free will. You must do it. So in Mercury, the Sagittarius line that we've just had, the axis of that, the North Node, South Node of that, it's uprooting all old ways of thinking and giving you multi-perspectives, right? New ways of thinking, speaking, and interacting with people, and looking at all of that and reviewing all of that. That's, no one can agree on anything, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to be uprooting all of our old ways of thinking about things and discussing things. And I mean, like, if you haven't got a view on something that's happened over the past 18 months, you're like, you are, you know, not with the reality of this situation. Everyone's got views on things, right? And no one agrees on anything. And that is all this kind of Gemini, because it makes us more gray. Right? We get very black and white in our thinking, very old in our thinking, dogmatic. Our belief systems get old. The way we think about ourselves, the way we think about life, and it all gets very sedentary. And this Gemini comes in and gives us a 1-2 on that, right? So, you know, that's uproot all the ways I believe about myself and the ways I think. And uprooting, that's very healthy, because, you know, you're free of that.
Yeah.
And now you have, like, it's all what Nicole has been talking about was the mind this year, right? So, you know, so it's very important that the mind is uprooted and shifted and shuffled about, right, and cleaned out and giving you different perspectives, even if they're not what somebody else's is. I mean, anyway, so, oh, sorry. So just, it's finalizing on the last degree. Now, as I just said about Mars with Scorpio finalizing, it's a must do, because Gemini, the North nodes are always a must do. They know free will. And now we're finalizing it, getting that double punchier energy. So there's going to be an explosion of confusion. Different ways of thinking about things, different ways of seeing things, different ways of being triggered into, you know, other people's thoughts. It's really a moment to uproot all your own belief systems, not other people's. Right? Use other people's to see where you're triggered, right? Yeah. And maybe you'll stay with the same belief. There's nothing wrong with that. But just allow people to speak, listen to other people, get information from other people, right? Have a view of your own, but what the secret is here is to not attach, because we're going to go into a Taurus North Node, which is uprooting all of our attachments. Right? Because these are phenomenal for attachment. They attach to everything, right? So because they're a very physical sign, they get easier in with the attachments. So we'll have 2 very interesting planets in Taurus. We'll have the karmic destiny changer, right? And we have Uranus, or both of them shaking up, where we're physically attached to things and emotionally attached to things. So we're going out of the very mental energy that we've been having into the deeper emotions of, well, now let's think about it. Let's break it down. When I have an emotion about something, what do? I eat something, I buy something, I move my job title, I move my house, right? We're all triggered by our emotions, and they make us do things to escape it. Oh, now I have this lovely lounge. I feel so much better, right? And then only to find out next week we're still like with the emotion, right? This movie, in the detail, is going to be uprooted, but you can only imagine what it's going to do in the Western world, where we're all so consumerist and all so damaged. Yes, that all of that consumerist band-aid behavior is coming to an end. This is interesting because this is also when Buddhism was born. This is also the axis. It was born on a Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node, because in Buddhism, it's all about don't attach yourself to anything. We're not quite that, we're not quite like that Kabbalistically. We want you to have material things. We want you to have things. We want you to be successful. We want you to have money and all that. But to know it's not the fulfillment that you're looking for, right? That comes from within. So this is that whole lesson on coming in for 18 months.
It's really interesting.
We're talking about podcast. We have a podcast. There's no reason for us to stop yet, Nicole, because this is a doozy. If you thought that there was so much like social media, confusion, information confusion, thinking confusion, who's got the facts confusion, which is what the Gemini was doing, right? Yes. Yes, to give us all multi-perspectives on things and uproot our own belief systems, then, and to shift consciousness in a way, right? Because now I'm not so stuck in my old thinking. I'm now shifting into a conscious reality. It's very powerful, right? Now that is being done in the material world, well, we have Uranus and Pluto also stirring things up. So you cannot attach yourself to anything physical, and you cannot react to it. That is the lesson over the next 18 months. And we'll speak to it more because it needs to be unpacked a lot, as we've been talking about this month, with your mind and the way you think and the way you perceive and your view and the way you speak, and that what creates your reality. We've been speaking about that with that Mercury North Node. So you will take a turn to a different theme, and you will see after Christmas, which is kind of interesting, that all of this Mars and this, shortest day of the year and then full moon and the change of the North Node is all shifting us very rapidly, probably within a couple of days, into a very, very vastly different energetic landscape, which will be very financial, very materialistic, very consumeristic, financial systems, banking systems, government systems, trade systems, big corporations, all of those things that we sort of gently touched on this year will definitely be, well, not the same.
It's really funny. I can feel that already. No, I can feel that already coming in, because yesterday evening I was like, I decided to sell my very expensive watches. I used to work in corporate, and I used to work at a huge jewelry company, which is like worldwide. And so I have some expensive watches and some, some diamond rings and all of that. And I was like, I think it's time to let that go in order for me.
Yes, you can start to feel it.
Yeah, already. And it's difficult because part of me is still attached to it. I can understand, part of me
they're lovely things, right?
Yeah,
they're very nice.
They're lovely, and I chose them at a certain time to remember this time, and it's like I'm like that. I'm Taurian.
They're like tattoos, no? They're yes, it's very Taurian, and we're all like that. But Taurian's obviously more like that. But we all have it.
I mean, I'm completely guilty for that, but I could feel that already coming in, that it's time to let go of certain things. And I decided to let those watches and the jewelry go in order to be able to afford more spiritual growth, in sense of that I could buy a certain kind of courses that I want to do, that I can buy certain kind of books that I want to have, in order to have more knowledge, and in order to have more a more metaphysical, a more spiritual fulfillment. So what I decided consciously yesterday, I will give this material Rolex and my beautiful watches, sell them, and then get more spiritual knowledge. And it's really fascinating that you're saying, like, okay, the North Node is changing into Taurus, and this is what you will feel, because I totally relate to that.
This is what you'll be doing.
Yeah,
this is what you'll be doing, and exactly. There'll be a whole, like, all of this, discussion, like times 50 or billion, 7 billion, in fact.
For me, that's kind of difficult as a Taurian, because I relate to things. I mean, I love my crystals and I love my malas and I love my clothes and, you know, I'm Taurus. But it's really fascinating how I could feel the shift of the energy and the necessity to move in this, to the necessity to really push, like, let go of those old vibrations and really come into a new one. And I wanted to say one more thing to our beautiful podcast today. I learned so much this year, like mental concepts and models are not really my pure strength. I'm very intuitional. I'm very physical also, because how I experience the world. I'm very my primer,
practical, really,
very practical.
like how it.
And I learned so much this year with this Gemini, like the past 1.5 years, I would say, like in the retrospective. I learned so much about mental concepts, about reasons why people think, act those certain way, why they are like. For me, this period was like, really, I was like a student in a university of mental laws, basically. And I had like some really great teachers in this time, and I'm very grateful that we had this Gemini North Node. For me, it was an amazing learning experience. But I'm looking really forward to this Taurus North Node, because I feel I have a lot of knowledge of maneuvering the physicality, because this is like, I was born in this. My PhD, if you want, so is healing the physical body. I did that for 25 years. That's what I did on myself before I started working with anyone. Before I started teaching, before I started working as a trauma therapist, I was like working on myself, on my own.
Oh, when the South Node goes Scorpio and the North Node's Taurus, you'll be so busy.
Oh, yes.
That's exactly what it does.
Yes.
That's exactly what it does.
I'm really looking
forward to Gemini Sag was all about the mind, right? Yeah. It's all about the learning, the discovery of this brain and how it,
I was so,
and now you're coming, now you'll feel like all this kind of thing that you're doing with trauma therapy and releasing, letting go, uprooting from the deeper. So this is exactly what it's about. So get your calendar out. You'll have a lot of
amazing. So is that it for this week?
Yes.
Oh my God, we're so good.
Else, I think I've sent enough. I said it was all positive, but then I'm like all with the challenges, but
No, I mean, it's important to know where to work on. I'd rather know that than, oh yeah, Venus is bringing you love and Pisces is bringing you positive emotions. Yeah, that's good. But if I prefer to know where I can look at and where my work is, then to know, the positive things are there by themselves. Like, I get them. But to understand, oh, this could be like a sequence that's just coming in.
Clarity, doesn't it?
Yes,
you're not in it alone. Foggy. We're all going through it, and this is what it is. Yeah.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Okay, you guys. Next week we're having the last one for this week. So
this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this year. I'm sorry. This year.
That's all right.
That's what I wanted to say, actually. So if you liked us, dive in with us next week. There are new boosts, new knowledge, you know where to go. And if you want to learn more about Matt, it's the matttaylorexperience.com. If you want to know more about me and what I do, it's on li.vision, www.li.vision. You can read a lot of articles there. Matt is on there too. We are all present everywhere. And if you like to go in action, we have My Ally with a subscription model, but it's free for 7 days. So you can try it just without any credit card and anything. And you can do yoga with me, or like, I will have some classes on there also for the winter solstice. All right. Have an amazing day. Bye.
Bye.